Hello, this is Chris Design's class, and today I'm going to take you through code editor concept, a dive into VS Code, Visual Studio, StackBlitz, and CodePen. Before we delve into the class, I would like to give a brief introduction of me, your tutor. I'm Priscilla Adhiambo, a web developer, a software engineer, and an urban planner. If you like to connect or reach out for further conversations, you can find me on LinkedIn as Priscilla Adhiambo, Twitter at PriscaDask, and my email is opiopriska@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. So I dive into code editors. A code editor is a software tool used by programmers and developers to write, edit, and manage source code for computer programs. So there are different computer programming languages. There is JavaScript, there is Java, Python, and many other programming languages. So people use code editors for the respective program in order to write their code and to script and also to run the code. So that's basically what a code editor does. So it offers features such as syntax highlighting, code completion, indentation, and error checking to help developers write code more efficiently and accurately. So examples of code editors that are in the market are Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, Atom, Vim, Emacs, Notepad, and many others. I'm not sure if any of you have interacted with code editors, but feel free to share your favorite code editor and why. So we also, in addition to the code editors, we have StackBlitz and CodePen, which are online development environments, primarily geared towards web development and prototyping. So apart from the traditional code editors, we also have these ones that are online development environments. So you do not have to download it or install it, you just use it totally online. So apart from these ones, there's also Visual Studio and many other code editors that are not mentioned, but it does not mean it's not a code editor. It could be a code editor. So we'll dive into Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is a versatile and lightweight code editor developed by Microsoft. It features a rich ecosystem of extensions for customizations and enhanced functionality. Basically, I've mostly used Visual Studio, and I usually like it because it's versatile and it has an interface that is easy to use for me. Yeah, and it has a lot of features. So if you want to use Visual Studio, you'll first go to the site visualstudio.com, code.visualstudio.com, and then here you'll find an overview of Visual Studio, such as what it has and also an option to download it. So here is the interface of Visual Studio, and then here is the marketplace. So marketplace are basically extensions you'll find on Visual Studio, but this one I'll also show you on the demo. And then here there is the option of downloading Visual Studio according to your computer or laptop. So there's for Mac, there's for Windows, there's for Linux, and different. So you choose the one specific to your computer or laptop for efficiency. So if you have Windows and you download for Linux, you might have complications. So be very specific on which one you're downloading. And then it highlights the features it has. IntelliSense basically shows you, helps in code completion and all that. Features that you rarely find in Notepad. So in Notepad, for instance, if you're writing a syntax for code, you have to write it to the end, but in IntelliSense it will help you autocomplete it. So if you come here, you'll see an overview of the features that VS Code has, and you'll decide if it's the right fit for you or not based on what you require. So I'm going to open a window for Visual Studio on my laptop. I already had it open. So if you open Visual Studio, this is where you will land. It will have this upper part here, and then it will have this side options, and then it will have this center part, and then there is also this lower part. So this side is the activity bar, and then this one is the overview bar, and then these are the window where you find most of your code. So first, open a folder. So I'll go to File, Open a folder. You can also use the shortcuts that has been provided. So you first have to open a folder before you are able to open a file. And because I do not have a folder open, I can create a new folder here. And write it as VSCode demo. And then I can select it. Yeah, so this is the folder that I've just created now, and then I trust the authors, and then in this folder is where you start creating the files. So I'll create index.html, an index.html file. So if you are coding using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you will write the file according with its extension. So an interesting thing in using VS Code, as I say, there's this IntelliSense and there's autocomplete. So if I want a quick HTML template, I'll just do that sign, and then I'll press enter, and I already have the template. And then from there, I'm able to edit my code here. So I could write a paragraph tab, element, and then I can write this is a demo. Yes, and then you continue editing here until you are done. If you look up here, it shows you which file you have opened. So if I have another file such as main.js, it brings it here. So if I want to write anything, this is the syntax for the specific language. So if you have an HTML file, you will have to have the syntax for HTML. If you have a JavaScript file, you have to have a syntax for JavaScript, and going on and going forth. So I hope that gives you how it works so far. So what I usually love most, this search bar. If you need anything on this terminal, there's also a terminal. If you click on these three dots, it gives you further options. So there's the file, where you are able to open a new file, new window, and work with files and folders. And then the edit is where you can undo, redo, copy and paste, depending on what you want to do. But you find that mostly you use the shortcuts: Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste, Control-X for cut. So I rarely use these edit options, but if you prefer, you can still come here. And then there's the selection, and then there's the view, which gives you the view that you may require. And if you want to run code, this is where there's an option. And if you want to automatically run code, you press Control-S saves it, and then you can run it on the terminal or on the live server. And then there's the terminal. I've said the terminal like a lot, so this is where you get the terminal. And basically, terminal is where you find the code output that you want to execute. And then the help bar, if you need any requirements or help from this, you can always come here. Apart from the terminal, we also have the source control option. And the source control mostly works if you're working with Git and GitHub. So you have the option of initializing a repository. If you've interacted with Git and GitHub, it will be more relevant to you. It shows you the commits made, the merge made, and pull and pulse made. So it's usually easy to track, especially if you're working with GitHub. So that's what it does. And then there's this debug option. So if your code is showing any issues, this is what you use to run and debug the code. So it will help you while you're working on this interface. What I like most about VS Code is the extensions. So extensions enable you to work with different add-ons to your library. So for instance, if I want an extension, I'll search for it. So I have different extensions for me. So let's say I want Prettier. Prettier is an extension that colors your code like this. Yeah, so I search for it, and then I click it, and it will bring me these options, and then I'm able to see how many download it has, the ratings, and if I had not installed it, I'll have the install. So if this one, for example, this one, Prettier SQL, I do not have it installed, so this is the one. So the extensions I've found really useful is Prettier, and then there is the autocomplete tag. So just here, auto rename, auto close tag. So auto close tag is, for example, if I had written on my index file. So let me go back to my index file, and then I had written P, and then it autocomplete. So that's the auto close tag. If you do not have the extension, you'll not be able to have that feature. And then there's also IntelliSense. IntelliSense helps in effectively helping your, it helps in writing your code generally. But you can also check them out on your free time. You check out the different extensions that you may need for VS Code, and then how to install them and which are their features. So for the last extension I usually find useful, especially in HTML, is the live server. So basically, if you're writing your code here and you want to view it on a browser, you'll need to install live server. So the same way we've installed Prettier, the same way we've installed any other. And then so if you right click on this file, you'll be able to open this file with the live server, and you'll be able to see this is a demo here, and then this is a demo. So that's how VS Code works with live server. You can do settings on the themes. Like I'm using the dark theme for my VS Code. If you like dark theme, light theme, you can set it here on the settings, the command palette and extensions and all those. This is where you find them. Yeah, and then this side shows you the terminals that are open. You can add a terminal if you want to work with 2 or 3 terminals, and this is where you see like different terminal options. And then down here is the status bar. If you're using HTML, you see here is HTML, but if I open this different file, JavaScript file, you see here it changed, and this one shows you the port that it's open at. So that's the general overview of VS Code. If you have any questions, clarifications, feel free to reach out. The last thing I'll show you is this last part, this right side part of VS Code. It's usually for toggling the view, so you can have that for if you do not want the taskbar there. Yeah, and then this one for full and half, and then this one for having an extra bar on the right or not. Yeah, so that's basically an overview of VS Code. we'll move on to the next one, Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio, in as much as they have almost similar names, they're not they're not the same thing. So Visual Studio Code is versatile and lightweight, while Visual Studio is an integrated development environment. So what it basically means, it is integrated. Integrated. It has different integrations. I am not sure if someone can define that better. Yeah, but that's basically what it means. And there was this meme that if you open Visual Studio instead of Visual Studio Code, you'll spend extra time going rectifying that error, because Visual Studio Code is not as lightweight as Visual Studio Code. Yeah, but we'll also delve into the differences later on. So, but the good thing about Visual Studio is that it offers advanced features for large-scale projects. So it's usually preferred by companies and large projects that are a bit complicated. And then it is ideal for enterprise-level applications, collaborative development with teams, and for specific languages. But it can work with all languages such as JavaScript, JSON, Python, Java, HTML, CSS, Markdown, TypeScript, and all that, and more, using extensions that are relevant to it. So if you want to have Visual Studio, you just come to the site Visual Studio. You just search Visual Studio in your browser. It will bring you, and then you select the first options. It will bring you to this site, and then you have the option of downloading the community, professional, and enterprise. Community is mostly free. Professional and enterprise are paid. Yeah, and then this page will also give you an overview of Visual Studio, and from this you'll decide if it's the right fit for you or not, depending on the features and requirements that you have. So it's also built on Microsoft, as I already said. After you've downloaded it, it's usually advisable to check and to have an overview before you install it, because there's requirement if you want for C or for different languages. There's a requirement, there's a step where you have to check. So while you're installing, check the documentations. So the interface of Visual Studio is like we had seen for Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio is a bit different. The first page is you'll have an option to clone a repository, open a project, open a local folder, or create a new project. So when you open it, this is where it brings you. And if you had recent folders open, they'll be shown on this left side. So if you decide to create a new project, it will bring you to this part. And this part, it will show you the options. If you want to start an empty project with C++, and if you want to run a console app, or if you want to run a Windows desktop wizard, or if you want to start on an empty solution containing no projects. So it will give you that options, and then you select the one that you wish, and then after that you'll have to configure the project. So by giving it a project name, a location where you want to save it, and the solution name. So this will mostly be used in naming your file and folder for file organizations. And then after that it will bring you to this window. So as you had seen on Visual Studio Code, it has this window. This is how the window looks like. Don't factor in the dark and light mode, but factor in how the structure looks like. So this is how for Visual Studio looks like. And if you look up here, it has this bar that has the different options: file, edit, view, project, build, all this. So, and this search is usually mostly important because you might need something but you do not know where it's located, so use this search a lot. And then it has different sections. This is the main section. So if you have this calculator.cpp file open, this is where the code will be at. So all the code editing and adjustments and all that this is where it happens. And then this is the terminal that shows you output for your files. And then on this left side, it shows you our folder was calculator project. So this is where it shows you the file organizations and then the properties. So yeah, this is the interface of how Visual Studio looks like. And then this is the console. If you're using the console, it will be a window that pops up and it will look like this. And then this code brings this interface. Like if you code it, it will bring it to you like this. And then so if after you've created it, you'll be able to add these files, but this one is specific for a calculator app. It will be different for your project and all that. And then there's also a debug function in Visual Studio where you are also able to debug your code, and it's this option up here where you are able to debug your code in case it has any errors that have issues for you. Yeah, so Visual Studio Code will go into the differences between Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio, and as I have highlighted here. So Visual Studio is an integrated development environment, while Visual Studio is a code editor. So this is for editing code, but this one is an integrated development environment. So if you're using C, it will bring you an environment for C. If you're creating .NET application, it will bring you the library for, it will bring you the environment for .NET. Yeah, so that's where the difference comes in. It has all those package for the specific applications you want to build. If it's C, if it's .NET, if it's different ones. Yeah, and then Visual Studio is for professional use with C# and .NET, while Visual Studio Code, VS Code, let me use VS Code and Visual Studio. So VS Code is for all levels, web scripting, web and scripting. So personally, when I was starting out, I used VS Code first because I can use it online without downloading it. And then when I downloaded it, it was still flexible for me. So Visual Studio is for more advanced professional, while Visual Studio Code, VS Code is for all levels. And then the last one is Visual Studio has built-in tools for debugging, testing large projects. But VS Code is lightweight, extensible, open source, and cross-platform. So in summary, what this means is if you are starting out and you're doing small portfolio projects, you can use VS Code. But if you are in a professional settings and it's a large project and they are using a specific library or language, you might go the Visual Studio way. Yeah, I hope that's clear and elaborate. Feel free to ask any questions, recommendations, or anything that might pop up. Now we move to StackBlitz. StackBlitz is an online IDE for rapid prototyping and development. So it's browser-based development environment with real-time collaboration features, and it integrates frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue.js, and it's perfect for quick demos and sharing code. So StackBlitz is, as you see here, it's the term integrated development environment. This one is what you should note down, and then it's for rapid development, prototyping, and development. So if I open this folder, for instance, and I have my React application, it's usually you use Vite, if you are using Vite, you use the command, and then it will install all dependencies on your laptop, and then it will install all the files and folders that are required, and then it will have, so you find that you'll have all this on your laptop. And then the issue with that usually is if I develop an application on my laptop, and then you try running it on your laptop, it might not work because our specs are different, and we have different, for example, I'm using Windows environment and you're using Mac environment or Linux environment, so that difference might make something work on my computer but not work on your computer. So StackBlitz also addresses that by providing the online integrated development that has all this in one part, so like it's easy to share it with others without having to zip the file, the folder, and then send it to someone so that they view it. It's totally online, like totally online. So I'll have a demo for that. So you go online and then you search for StackBlitz. When you open StackBlitz, you'll have to create an account. I had already created one, but it's straightforward. You can create it with Google, or you can create it with email. It's just straightforward and then after that it will bring you to this page. So on this page you might decide to open a GitHub repository, or you might decide to open a new project. So I can open a new project. If you open a new project, it will give you options for the template you want. So remember the part I had said, integrated development environment. So if you choose Node.js, it will bring you an environment for Node.js. For React, same. For JavaScript, same. And for Vue, same. So if you choose front end, it will bring you the different options for front end, back end. So you can also exploit on your free time and test it out. It's so easy to get started. So for example, if I choose a React or a TypeScript, it will bring me to this site, to this page. Yeah, so let me open one of the starter templates, and then these are ones that I had already started with, but let me just do it for the sake of those who might not know how I reached there. So I'll take the React one. Yeah, so you see, like I just clicked the React and it brings me the files on this side, it brings me the code on this side, and then on this side it brings me the output. So think, yeah, voila. So that's the output. So let's say for instance I decide to write here, this is stack demo. Yeah, I do not even run it, or I do not do anything. It just runs on its own because yeah, it's direct. So this part is where you edit your code, and then this part is where you add, if you want to add a new file, you can add a new file for fun. File.css. Yeah, and then I can write my syntax there, or I can create an index file and a JS file. Yeah, and I have it open here. So feel free to play around with it, but if you're doing a React app project, it comes in handy. A React TypeScript project, it comes in handy because you do not have to, for those who are using npm create React app, you do not have to do that. If you're using Vite, you do not have to do that. You just come to this integrated development environment and you start developing the features. Like that was the essence of StackBlitz. proving that environment so that you just do the features and then you share. Yeah, so this is the where you can pop it on and off as you wish. The search bar when you want to search for anything, and then the Firebase. This is for people who are using backend and you want to deploy a database. This is where you connect it with Google. So this shows how flexible it is. And then settings, you can do settings according to your preference. Hot reload when you just want to make changes and make them appear here. So what's interesting about StackBlitz is once you're done with your development, you can easily share. So that's just the essence of StackBlitz. So you can share it as an editor so that someone else can edit and collaborate and make the upgrade with you. So normally what happens is you have to zip all this and then you upload it and then someone else downloads. So this makes this integrated development environment available to the person you're sharing to. And then when your production is done, you can just copy the URL so that people can see it live. So you won't need to host it anywhere or anything. So yeah, that's just how cool. The last one we're going to look into is CodePen. CodePen is an online community for front-end developers with HTML, CSS, JavaScript code snippets. It has a minimalist code editor interface with live previews for rapid iteration and experimentation. It is ideal for learning, prototyping, and collaborating with developer community. So, if you want to use CodePen, you go to the browser and search for CodePen, and this is the first option. The first option is the one that we will use. After, when you go on the site, if you do not have an account, you may need to create an account. And creating an account is generally very easy. As long as you have a Gmail account, you can use your Gmail to create the account. Okay. You can use your Gmail to create an account and then you just get started immediately. So since I had already created an account, it will bring me directly to this page, but your page will be different. So for example, if I wanted to create a landing page, I'll come here and search CodePen. It will also bring you suggestions for what you can build. Yeah, but you can just search directly if you are interested in something specific. So for example, I can write a landing page. If I press enter, it will bring me a collection of different landing pages that I can explore and choose which one really looks relevant for the project I'm doing or which one looks appealing. And from there, I'll be able to see the code snippets for it. And then I'll also be able to iterate it and see if I'm able to customize it according to my needs. So there's this expandable, there's this one. I find this interesting. There's this one. So it has endless. If the ones on this page are not interesting enough for you, you can go to the next page. And then you'll be given more options and more and more and more and more. Yeah, until you find the one that you find that you want. So for instance, if I find this Netflix landing page interesting, I can click on it. And if I click on it, it will take me to the code snippets for it. So it doesn't have to always be a page. It can be a button, it can be a card, all these elements that someone needs or components that you may need. So after that, you see that this is the HTML page for the landing page, and then this is the CSS that the person who made this site used. And then if you look down here, this is the preview. So you might move this up so that you see the preview once it's fully loaded. Yeah, so and then you can move it down. This, you're able to create cool applications and websites by just looking at examples. You can look for different, for card, for landing page, and anything else. So that's it for our lesson. We've had a summary of all these code editors, from Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, StackBlitz, CodePen, and everything. So in conclusion, VSCode, Visual Studio, StackBlitz, and CodePen each offer unique strengths and cater to different use cases in the realm of coding and development. Thank you for your time, and I hope if you have any questions or any suggestions, feel free to reach out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment so that you can further engage. Thank you.